God, I love games where you get to play the villain. Like, Prototype or, like, Infamous, you know?
GTA?
Yeah, freaking games like that. It's
How
amazing.
about Majora's Mask?
Yeah, just like, no. You're a hero in Majora's Mask.
Oh, hold on. Let me show you in normal mode's theory crafting.
Wait, this is what you spent my $20 on?
Let's do it! At the beginning of Majora's Mask, Link leaves Hyrule, searching for something dear. A lot of people believe it to be Navi, and even the Hyrule Historia, the main source of information on the Zelda universe, states that, but everything in Majora's Mask points to a completely different person. Even some of the facts that most Zelda fans used are completely incorrect. For example, after the Majora's Mask intro, Navi is never heard. What fans are actually hearing is Tattle and Tail, the Skull Kids fairies, discussing that there's somebody to steal from. Navi is never even alluded to within the game, but we have another reason to believe that it couldn't have been Navi. In every other Legend of Zelda game, when you use a fairy, when a fairy's purpose is finished, they fade away. Our best guess is that when a fairy's energy is expended, they return to the fairy fountain to be rejuvenated by the queen. Well, that means that Navi's energy was expended. But what does this have to do with Link becoming a villain? Here's our thesis. We think that Link went to Termina to find something that could fight with the power of gods to free his friends and his love interest Soraya from their eternal bondage as sages. Yes, this is a controversial argument in the theory crafting of Legend of Zelda, but everything in Majora's Mask points away from Navi and towards Soraya being his primary focus. Let us just show you some examples. In Termina, when Link finally manages to free himself from the curse of the Deku Scrub, he learns a peculiar song known as the Song of Healing. A song built to help those fight the transgressions of their past, to help heal in times of pain. This song is Soraya's song backwards. But let's discuss why it would be Soraya. Let's talk about the Skull Kid. You find out later in the game that he's the exact same Skull Kid you taught Soraya's song to in the past. He's also the one you gave the mask to. And major spoilers ahead, but at the very end of the game, he asks, or rather, is reminded specifically of that boy who taught him the song in the forest, and the very last song you hear in the game is Soraya's song. We also have some darker reasons. They have a lot to do with the enigmatic Happy Mask salesman. More specifically, at the end of the game, when you are talking to the salesman, he tells you that you can shorten your friend's departure by going back to Hyrule. But he also mandates that it would have to be your choice. This is where we're a little bit confused. Why would it be a choice to shorten your friend's departure? As though it was something that you'd have to deal with significant consequence. This is where we get to my favorite part, and I'm super excited to talk about it. So when Link leaves Termina, he leaves with something very specific. Something that he could only find in Termina, a very powerful weapon known as the Fierce Deity Mask. World building wise, this is really big. This is one of the most powerful entities in the world that we know of Legend of Zelda, and it's also outside of the goddess's control. Why would Link take such a thing back to Hyrule if not to use it to help free his friends from the goddess's clutches? It probably would have been better in the Happy Mask salesman's hands, but as we've seen, the salesman didn't even ask for it. Chances are, he knew what Link wanted to do, considering he's kind of the shadow archetype, and is always one step ahead of the hero anyway. And there are those who are gonna say, oh, well, the Fierce Deity Mask was never heard about again. The only problem is it was, and it was really significant. 100 years later in Twilight Princess, we learn that the Fierce Deity Mask was used to try and take the Sacred Realm. This is where we're actually going to reintroduce you guys to the Dark Interlopers and explain the story of what happened prior to Twilight Princess. When we meet them for the first time, we discover that they looked a lot like Link. Whether this was symbolism or not, we see Link standing in the middle of the Dark Interlopers, and behind him from the ground raises a mask, a cursed mask, that has been called the Fused Shadow. But despite all of the argument, we have proof that that is Link, a previous Link. The proof is the hero's shade. The hero's shade is the hero of time from Ocarina of Time canonically. He is a sagely figure who tries to teach Link in Twilight Princess. We meet the hero's shade for the first time after the Twilight Realm's been open. He takes the form of a golden wolf until you finally meet up with him. Afterwards, he takes the appearance of a Stalfos. But the thing that truly links the hero's shade to being an antagonistic hero of time is his eye, which has been destroyed. If you look back to the completed fused shadow, the exact same eye has been destroyed, and a great crack runs along it. However, there is no actual eye there. Instead, it's my theory that the mask was destroyed while it was on his face, and since the fierce deity mask has always copied Link's physical appearance, both Link and the mask lost an eye. The Twilight Realm existing in itself is a major clue. When somebody touches the Triforce in order to make a wish, if the person has a completely balanced heart, it will grant them their wishes, but if they have an unbalanced heart, it will split. It will automatically turn the Sacred Realm into a mirror of the wisher's heart. At this point, it should have been the Sacred Realm, because the royal family had had it under wraps during the entirety of Ocarina of Time in the child timeline. The Twilight Realm didn't actually exist up until Twilight Princess. So where did it come from? The Twilight Realm exists because somebody with a morally ambiguous intention touched it. They made a choice to do something good in a bad way. And how do we know that the Twilight Realm is for sure the Sacred Realm? Because in the Sacred Realm, you are automatically turned into an animal unless you have an item that will prevent you from having its magics worked on you. One of the key points of Twilight Princess is that the Twilight Realm turns you into a wolf. So let's review what we have so far. The hero leaves Termina with the fierce deity mask, returns to Hyrule, and uses at least 2 friends to attempt to break into the Sacred Realm? Now, here's another reason only Link could have done that. Link is the only character with the knowledge of the Song of Time and the Ocarina of Time readily accessible. He is the only one could have touched the Triforce during this time period. And he seizes the Triforce just to have it split. How do we know it's split? Well, right before Ganon's execution, the Triforce of Power appeared on the back of his hand. But in this timeline, the Triforce hadn't been split and was completely unreachable. And Ganon was also imprisoned, so I think it's kind of, well, unbelievable that he managed to split the Triforce from inside that cell. We also see in the Ganon flashback that the sages were not freed from their duty despite the timeline being completely different. We actually see that Ruto dies. Because these sages are just like the hero in Ganon. They are only chosen once every dynasty, once every 100 years, once every reincarnation of the hero and the darkness. So here we are, in the Temple of Time, with 3 gemstones, a song, and a magical ocarina. The Master Sword and the Sacred Realm stand before him. But, in order to avoid being stricken by Raru's magic and teleported 7 years into the future, he dons the mask that gives him godlike power, is not put to sleep for 7 years, and ascends into the Sacred Realm to touch the Triforce. What happens next is actually a part of a completely different game. We're actually going to take a look at the Hyrule Historia, where there is an explicit place set for a 3rd game of the Ocarina of Time trilogy. Could it be that this is the game where you have to play the anti-hero and ascend into the Sacred Realm, now turned Twilight Realm, to enact vengeance for your friends? Or do you take the role of a sage and have to fight the hero of time, the Sage of Time, having to face off against the previous hero of time? Eventually, she summons the 3 light aspects, for she is the incarnation of the goddess in this world. And a light arrow pierces Link's eye, and destroys the mask off the fierce deity's face. And Link is cursed to remain in the Twilight Realm with the rest of the Dark Interlopers, creating the Twilight Race, leaving Link nothing but a shell of his former self, caught in despair and twilight. And that pretty much wraps this theory up. Now, here's the deal. We're actually going to release a second video after the fans have all put their input in. We will be answering questions and talking about different points that you guys bring up. We even have some of our own that we already have written up to make this second video. Like, for example, are we allowed to argue with the Hyrule Historia, the holy word of, Miyamoto? Just in general, we're going to get a lot more in depth with it there. So please, like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us what you think of the theory and if you can break it. Because if you can, then we will bring it up, and we will talk about it, and we will accept it if it is successful.